This week on Storytime at the Roo Bus, we're talking about the status of Bonnaroo 2026 and all of the ticket promotions that Bonnaroo is doing. We've also got a very special update on our Totem Atlanta event, so tune in. Welcome to Storytime at the Roo Bus, a weekly podcast about Bonnaroo and other festivals. I'm your host, Charla.
What's up? It's Daniel. And originally this was going to be an episode that we were going to record from like a hotel room and this house. I thought I was going to be down in Florida, but surprise, I'm here. Work plans went a little different this week. If you know my day job, you know why. But I'm glad to be here spending the weekend with you instead of away from home working. How have you been?
I've been great. We just wrapped up our Totem event in Atlanta. Daniel, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, the main thing is it was crazy cold. I think by the time we were walking out of there, it was like 15 degrees outside with like 20 or 30 mile an hour winds. So that was definitely the coldest I have ever felt in my life. So it means a lot that so many of you braved the cold and came out. We got a couple of messages from people that were asking if we were still having it. And yes, we were, and we did. The weather was crazy in Atlanta, but the roads were clear. It snowed pretty good over there, but it didn't stick or anything. And I know you Northerners are making fun of us for all this, but we never really have to deal with this. So we don't really know what to do other than go get milk and bread when this happens.
Well, we just want to say a big thanks to everybody who came out for that. There was people that came from, all over Georgia, really, for that event. So just thank you guys so much. Also, a really, really big thanks to Maddie for putting that on. Did such a great job with that event. And he set up this really, really super cool silent auction that went over really well.
Yeah, we had some cool prizes. We had like that old Bonnaroo book. We had some vinyl from all of this year's headliners, a couple other cool things. Raised a good bit of money for Totem, so thank you for everybody that bid on that. Was glad to supply everybody with some pizza. Again, thank you to Scofflaw Brewing for hosting us as well. That was a cool spot. I wish it was warmer so I could have done some of that stuff they have on their front porch. There's
that was really cool.
This cool basketball court with a giant screen next to it. I barely did anything because it was like so cold. When we got there, it was 20-something degrees. We don't deal
when we left,
with this
it was like
very well.
15 degrees and 30-mile-an-hour winds or something.
I can't do that. But yeah, thanks again to Maddie for putting that together and to Scofflaw Brewing for hosting us. Now, this is going to be a bit of a freewheeling episode. I think we have a lot to talk about. There has been a lot of talk in the Bonnaroo community, really the past 2 weeks, about how sales are going, how things feel a little bit different this year. There's been a lot of talk about these different ticket deals and packages that have been going around. We didn't really touch on it last week because we were looking forward to doing Totem. We were talking about the late night stuff. But I thought this week it might be a good idea to really dive into this stuff and talk about like what it means for Bonnaroo, what it means for the community. Kind of reflect on what everybody has been saying about this. And Charla told me when we were talking about putting this episode together tonight that she had notes. Charla always shows up with the receipts and everything.
That's because if I don't write things down, I'll get on the podcast and start talking and have no idea what I'm talking about. I mean, literally, like, we'll just go blank.
What was that bit on The Office?
Yeah.
Like, Michael was like, I just start talking and I don't know where it's going. That's totally me sometimes. I'll fully admit to it. But let's back up and let's talk about like what we're talking about here. So many of you may have seen this. There's been talk on our Discord, on Reddit, a couple other places about all these different like ticket schemes that have like come out in the past couple weeks.
Don't use schemes.
I say that because that's literally what they call it over in the UK. Like when they say like plan, they might say schemes. I don't know.
True.
I'm not British though.
But Bonnaroo is not in the UK.
They want to be Glastonbury. It's in the UK.
They're in Tennessee. They're in Manchester, Tennessee.
Okay, these ticket deals.
No.
What do you want to call them?
Promos.
Okay, I guess that's more accurate. That's the local vernacular. Thank you.
But they originally released where you could buy like a 4-pack of tickets for such and such amount of money. And we actually did talk about that a little bit last week. And, immediately when that went on sale, there were so many comments across the internet of people just doing the math and figuring it out, and you were only saving $5.
Yeah,
doing it like that.
There was another one that was announced just a couple of days ago where it was supposedly put together by like Roo insiders, meaning their staff, meaning the people that put these things together, that would bundle different options.
So it would bundle like different ticket options with different camping options. So it was like 2 VIP tickets plus Moon Colony closer parking. And that actually did have more savings than $5.
Yeah, it did. And we have talked about this whole thing that they've come up with where you can have a referral code if you're like telling your friends that they need to come.
Yes, it's similar to the old ambassador program when they had that back in the day, except with the ambassador program, you could actually earn tickets for Bonnaroo.
Yeah.
This, for every ticket that you sell through your referral link, you get $20 in festival cash to use, on food, etc.
Yeah. So there have been 3 of these so far. It feels like one a week for the past 3
different
weeks.
Types of promotions, yes.
Yeah. I feel like there's a number of things to talk through with this. And a lot of people have had very valid points about what it means. One thing that I do want to talk about up front is that some people who bought their tickets as soon as they were available have had a very valid point that it would have been nice if this was available from the beginning so they could have saved money, so they could have earned $20 in festival credit, which I think is a very valid point. What do you think?
Yes, I absolutely agree. I think that is the biggest concern that people have right now. You can go and, with the ticket promotions, the biggest concern people have with the ticket promotions right now, and you can go online, you can go in, to the Reddit, to Bonnaroo Loophole to Reality group on Facebook. You can go into all these places and see the comments people have. It's not great.
Yeah.
A lot of people did buy their tickets initially when it first went on sale because, if I recall correctly, it was, if you win in 2025, you're going to get the best deal. You're going to get the lowest deal, all this and that.
It's
so
like,
people were
was it though?
scooping those up immediately.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people that said, I literally bought this same deal or whatever, or I bought such and such. I could have saved so much money by getting the one that came out a couple of days ago.
Yeah, we did the math the other day, and the lowest tier deal for this like Rue curated thing, I forget exactly the terminology that they use because it doesn't apply to us. You could have saved like $40 to $80, give or take, for a pair of people, which that isn't nothing. I think that is a very valid critique that people that bought their tickets at the first availability are not getting the best deal when they were told that they were. And I think people are right in their criticism of that. I think that they should have expected to have had the lowest price on those things and not to have seen it available a month or so later.
Now, to back up, and here's a really good question. I don't know because I didn't research every single thing for this podcast, but
keep going.
were all of us that attended in 25, were we officially told that we were getting the best deal? Was it officially put out in a social media post, an email, was it official communication? That's the question.
Yeah, and it seemed as if there was an implication, not necessarily a promise, as I recall it. I think that a lot of people had expected that there would have been some sort of concession for those of us that did go last year. We do know that it isn't really possible for them to do some sort of loyalty program like Electric Forest does. There's a lot of technical things that have to happen in order for that to happen. And Bonnaroo's ticketing system isn't necessarily set up for that in the way that Electric Forest is.
Well, it's not necessarily their ticketing system because Electric Forest also uses FrontGate.
Yeah.
It's more on the email system side because I can tell you MailChimp is not good.
Yeah, Charlotte's had extensive experience with how much they suck. Sorry, MailChimp, you'll never be a sponsor of the show. But I do think ethically it isn't out of the realm of, reality, whatever. I'm not finding the right words here. But I think people had a realistic expectation that if they were a loyal Ruvian, if they did come last year, if they had to deal with the mess of last year, they would have been given first dibs on the best deal. And now we're finding that the best deals are coming a month or so later. And now I don't know about you, but I personally feel that okay, now that there is precedent for this, I can't necessarily recommend that people buy their tickets when they first go on sale next time.
No, that's what so many people were saying. Oh no, there's no point in buying the ticket first when it first becomes available. There's just 0 point in it.
Yeah.
Because you can wait and see if they put out deals like this, number one, or number two, just wait and see if someone's reselling a ticket and I mean, there's
Well,
so
that's
many.
always been the case.
Well, yeah, but there was zero incentive, I guess, to buy your ticket immediately when it went on sale.
Yeah. I'll certainly think twice about it personally next year now that I know that there is, track laid for this to potentially happen again in the future.
And you know what's wild is I remember even a couple of years ago, even as short term as a couple of years ago. Sorry, lost my train of thought.
I often do.
Even as early as, a couple of years ago, whatever. We were vying for those tier 1 tickets. I mean, I remember having a huge chat going. I remember having like 3 different browsers open.
Oh, yeah.
Like, got to get my tier 1. Did you get what tier did you get? Oh, well, I did it 5 minutes later, so I got tier 2. Like, it was a huge deal to like get tier 1.
They used to go very, very fast.
And now it's just like.
Yeah. And we don't know exactly how many tickets are included or in each tier. I don't think anybody outside of Bonnaroo has ever really known.
That's never, yeah. The tiers don't matter. It's just made up.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, everybody's always known that.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about another aspect of these 3 different deals. Do we feel that it means that sales are not going good if they feel a need to come up with all these different, not schemes, but deals? Promos, thank you.
Stop saying promos. I think that is a giant concern for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. I did some asking around this week with people at Bonnaroo and also people not necessarily working for Bonnaroo, but connected with them. And my impression has been that sales are not abysmal. They're not great, but they're not like as apocalyptic as people are assuming from all of these deals. I think a lot of people have been making comparisons to 2016 and 2022. Both were years in which attendance worked great. And for us, that's nice to not have to deal with a lot of traffic or a lot of crowds and, just being able to walk into a pit. But on the business side of things, it's not great. In this day and age, festivals cannot take a loss like that. I think they have gotten to a too big to fail kind of situation where they have to practically sell out in order to get above just barely breaking even. But that's just kind of the reality of the festival market at the moment. It's not great. There's a lot of other aspects about that, but we'll get into that later. But let me finish the thought. I'm sorry, babe.
No, you're good.
To let everybody know, anybody watching this, sales are not as in the pit as you might expect. They're doing okay. I think Bonnaroo would like for them to be a little bit better, but I do think that there's a lot of aspects involved in that. One is the economy sucks right now. People are a little afraid of spending money. I think because of that, we have a lot of younger people that are waiting for that tax return to hit before they get their tickets. I strongly suspect that's a big thing. And people are starting to get that depending on how lazy you are about filing. I haven't even touched my stuff yet. Yeah.
April 15th.
Yeah. Well, we got a while.
11:59 p.m.
But anyway, you had a thought.
No, I was just going to say, one of the comments that I've seen in multiple different places online is, if they don't sell enough tickets, will they cancel?
I really, 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 really think that's pretty much impossible.
Yeah, I cannot. I mean, I don't run festivals. I don't pretend to know what I'm talking about, but I don't see that happening. I mean, I'm sure that there's multiple contracts already signed and I's dotted and T's crossed for that to happen.
Yeah, there's no way. I mean, if history is any indication, when some sort of event happens, and again, we don't fully know this, we just know what we know from talking with people connected to it, Bonnaroo or other festivals are able to work with their insurance to make themselves whole again. For instance, the rain out last year, there was probably a lot of conversations with insurance people because, as you may remember, the refund went from 75% to 100%. So there was probably a lot of legal conversations that had to be made with insurance people about that. And then, of course, that probably happened with COVID, and it probably happened with the hurricane. I don't think insurance is going to pay out if ticket sales aren't good. That isn't something that I think is a thing. Maybe it is, but if it is, I've been knee deep in festival stuff for a decade. I've never heard of that. So there's a lot of other things involved, but no, I think that is virtually impossible that Bonnaroo doesn't happen this year just because it hasn't sold well.
Have there been any other festivals that didn't sell enough and canceled? Like, has that happened
yeah.
before? Like, what's the...
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It has happened a lot with smaller companies. I can't immediately recall that it has ever happened with C3 or Live Nation, but there have been instances with smaller things saying like, hey, we have to be honest, sales are not great. We're not going to be able to have this year. I can give you one example. So I've often talked on this show that I loved Sloss Fest down in Birmingham. There's a kind of sort of follow-up to that festival where they have a lot of hardcore bands over at Sloss Furnace down at, here's Truman, down at Sloss Furnace in Birmingham. This past year, it didn't sell well, and they were very transparent and made an announcement saying that, like, hey, we've got to do this and sell cheaper tickets now that were cheaper than what their initial buy-ins paid for. Sound familiar? And if you read between the lines, it said that if it didn't sell well, they weren't going to have that event. They eventually did have the event. There's other examples of things not selling well and not happening. But in many of those examples, they were from companies that didn't necessarily have the purse of Live Nation.
Right, exactly.
So I really don't see that happening this year. And in the wild, extremely unlikely scenario that it did, I think that puts the Bonnaroo brand in a position where it is devalued, and trying to choose my words carefully here, it's not something that many other prospective owners would be interested in either, if you follow what I'm saying here.
Hey, you mean Firefest 2 didn't sell enough?
we had a friend that put in a good faith bid of like $20 for the Firefest.
$9.
Yeah, $9.
And they called him.
Was it worth $9?
I don't know what the conversation was like on the phone, but I remember him saying, like, maybe they thought 9 million. Maybe they thought I meant
9 million. Was it worth that? It wasn't worth that. It was not worth that.
You know, another thing that I'm seeing out there, another conversation that I'm really seeing out there on the Reddit, the Facebook group, etc. People who have their ticket right now on layaway and they're wanting to cancel it, and they're like, oh, it just doesn't feel right to go back this year. I don't really like the lineup enough. I don't know why I bought these. Things like that. I don't know. Like,
I would be interested in talking more in depth with somebody that came to that frame of mind. Because I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around where that may have come from. Let's take a step back and look at it from a more positive angle. I hate to be all doom and gloom about this. So I know a lot of people have had critiques about the lineup. We'll come back around and talk about that here in just a little bit. I still feel like it's not a bad lineup personally. Now, that said, I'm an elder millennial, and there's a lot of acts on the lineup that appeal to our age demographic because, let's be blunt and honest, our age demographic has a little bit more money to throw around than like the 20 to 30 crowd these days. The economy, like I said, is not in a good place. I know that last year was an anomaly. It was an act of God, and you can't control nature. And I know that they're going to bounce back, even though things are probably going to be a little bit more bare bones to save money this year so they can have a better shot of like at least breaking even. Bonnaroo, as the What Podcast and many others around them always say, is never not great. Even a scaled down Bonnaroo is going to be a great Bonnaroo, especially after we only technically got one day of Bonnaroo last year. I'm excited to go. There's a lot of bands and stuff that I want to see. All of our friends are going to be there. I have heard through the grapevine, this is not an announcement, that there is going to be a lot more fan-generated content this year. They're going to be a little bit more creative with what's going to happen at the plazas. Anything cool happening in Outeroo is always a plus to me. I think this is going to be a unique Bonnaroo, and I know you're very careful about using that word sometimes. I think it is definitely going to be worth going to. 2016 and 2022, while they were not great for their bottom lines, were very good years for me personally. And yes, the smaller attendance does play a part in that because it's easier to get around, easier to get to the front of shows and everything. But also, I think it really is true that when you have a higher percentage of the diehards, the vibes are a little bit more off the chart.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I am really looking forward to how it's going to feel at this year. You can look at it in terms of like the lineup and saying like, oh, I don't like these bands or I do like these bands. But if you're watching this show, if you've bought into the whole, Rue sphere with the different podcasts and different places to talk online, you know that the lineup is really just a fraction of the whole experience. It's
really is.
summer camp with your friends. So there's a lot playing into why I feel this is going to be a good one. I respect those that say, like, hey, this lineup isn't for them. They have trust issues after what happened last year. But me personally, those two things don't really factor in for me. I'm really looking forward to this year, and it's going to be a good one.
Now, something else to know about those ticket package deals, the referral codes, or the referral links, things like that. This is not unique to Bonnaroo. C3 is also doing this with some of their other festivals. I saw them doing it for High Water in Charleston.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not unique to Bonnaroo. And I don't think low ticket sales necessarily are unique to Bonnaroo either. A lot of festivals have been struggling the past few years.
Pretty much if you're not Coachella, you're having a hard time at the moment.
There's some other ones that sell out.
Like what? Like, do you remember offhand?
I didn't do my research.
Well, let's just say for the moment, Coachella is the best example because it sold out very quickly this year. Coachella, I feel like, is an anomaly in the festival world because they have the buy-in from giant superstars and labels. I think somebody like, Lady Gaga or whoever is happy to take a hit because it's a good look for them. There was a time in which Bonnaroo was a good look for a headliner artist. I just don't think that's the world that we live in right now. I think Coachella or Glastonbury are the only places in which that's the case anymore. It doesn't matter who it is. Anybody else doesn't necessarily carry that weight. They may have 10 or 15 years ago, but that's just not the world that we live in right now. So I think we have talked about on this show that you can't necessarily rely on headliners. You can rely on a lot of the smaller font names. And I personally feel like those are fairly strong. Teddy Swims notwithstanding. I know that has been a debate in the Roo community for the past month or so, but we'll talk about that another time. How are you feeling about the lineup? A month and a half in, I suppose.
I like it personally. Personally, for me, I like it okay. Not a huge fan of the headliners per se, but there's a lot of undercards on there that I do love. But I can see why this lineup doesn't have the mass appeal.
Yeah.
But I say that as someone who did not like last year's lineup. It was way too EDM heavy for me. But on the other hand, I realized the sales aspect of last year versus this year. So how I'm feeling about the lineup is not representative of how 90% of folks out there are thinking.
It's just been interesting because I've seen more discussion in the past week or two on Reddit and such about how the lineup has been a barrier for a lot of people. And I do want to come back around and talk about this after we do Patreon and stuff here in a moment. But I wanted to end this little segment, at least, on a more positive note. I have to be careful. We don't really break news on this podcast, but I have had a couple of discussions this past week which have made me very optimistic about plans that are in place. Which is one reason I feel like, no, there's not really going to be any cancellation because things are on the way. I do know that there has been a call for more options out in the group plaza and potentially other plazas from people that are involved year to year. For example, let's look at Ruham, some of our, podcast friends. They did emo night a couple of years ago. I'm hearing through the grapevine, something like that's probably going to happen again. I know that we're going to get some really cool plaza entertainment as well. I learned this week that there is very likely something pretty cool coming to the spot that tent was. I'll ask for forgiveness instead of permission on this. If you were looking forward to watching the World Cup at Bonnaroo, I think there will be a pretty cool option available to you, along with some other things that are non-sports ball related that is coming to that. That's all I'll say. Again, I'm not announcing anything, but I think you'll hear more on that fairly soon. So there is stuff to look forward to this year. I know the lineup is not for everybody. I know that these deals, not schemes, have had people question a lot of things. And this is not me speaking on behalf of Bonnaroo. This is Daniel speaking on behalf of Daniel. And yes, I'm biased because I love the place. I don't think it's going to be as abysmal as people are feeling that it is. It's like Taco and them say, it's never not great. But I want to thank our Patreons for a moment before we come back and kind of finish this whole conversation for the week. it is the end of our season for having totem events. I think the Atlanta one is probably going to be the last one unless some great opportunity presents itself. Over the past 2 months, we've had a lot of people come out to Atlanta, Nashville, here in our hometown in Huntsville, other places as well. It means a lot to us to see so many of you coming to our events to tell us like what you're looking forward to, asking how you can help with Totem. I've seen so many Ruvians that only get to see like once or twice a year come to these things. For example, over in Atlanta the other night, like Pawpaw Josh just rolls in like he owns the place. Nobody knew he was coming. He comes in with the wife and kids. They were on their way back from Orlando. That meant the world to me, Josh. I really enjoyed seeing you the other night.
He walks in and everybody was just like,
yeah, we're like, what in the world? That was amazing. He got home and there was like a foot of snow or whatever at his house. But again, thank you so much to everybody that has come to these. I will be honest and transparent. Totem is going pretty darn well. In fact, it's going so well that I have been having discussions with people over the past week or so about like, okay, what are the next steps for our next phase? We had a great little summit in Atlanta the other day where we talked with Maddie and Evan and Andrew and Lisa and others about like, okay, things are going pretty darn good. What's the next step? And I'm trying to be a lot more transparent and honest with people these days. We're looking at possibly doing something in Shaky Knees this coming fall in Atlanta. We're looking at some avenues for that, but more on that soon. Charlotte, in the meantime, before I tell everybody about what else is going on with Totem, can you go through our list of Patreons?
Sure, of course. Jordan, Alyssa, Imani, Bradley, Jared, Olivia, Claire, Lexi, Danny, Lisa, Buttercrew Nick, Delaney, John with Texas Roo Crew, Brady, I Am Rave Dad, Courtney, Casey with Texas Roo Crew, Christy, Jums, David and Aurora, Stingbing, Zach and Jeremy, Amber, JB, Sam, Austin, James, Hygiene Queen, Chris and Shy, Dan, Ernst, Harris, Keith, Casey, Perry, Nick, Maddie, Bruce, Andrew, Kent, Randy, Pawpaw Josh, Bosco, Eric and Ben, Evan, Chloe, and Sean.
You know this already. You can learn more at patreon.com/Rubus, and you can learn more about Totem at totemfnd.org.
And if you do know anyone that's between the ages of 21 to 25, please, please, please tell them to apply for the Totem Foundation Scholarship to Bonnaroo. Just go to totemfnd.org. The link is at the very, very top. We have got some amazing, amazing applications in this year. I don't know how we're going to be able to decide. I mean, it truly is good.
Yeah.
Actually, just in full transparency, one of the ways that I've been promoting the scholarship is I have actually been reaching out to colleges. I've probably reached out to just about every college within a 200-mile radius. And that really, I think, has amped up the quality of our applications. I mean, because we're getting in applications from people who actually are in music business programs, are in entertainment industry programs, are in audio engineering programs. So just the quality of our applications have just gone up so much.
Yeah, we've seen some that are stark reminders of why we do this. It means a lot. So those of you that have been donating in different ways, make sure that you come over to our area at the bus at our group camp to come meet some of our scholars for this year so you can see where your money has gone to. It makes a difference for a lot of people. I was just having a conversation with a certain somebody that many of you would know a couple hours ago, and word has gotten out. And it's not because of me and Charla, and it's not just because of everybody on our board and stuff. It's because you guys have been encouraging us and helping us. It's really making a dent in the festival community. So thank you very much.
Please come meet all of our scholars and meet our former scholars because they typically come back to Bonnaroo. Meet all of our former scholars as well. They are out there doing some incredible and amazing things. Two of them right now are getting to travel and do some really cool stuff. So, I mean, they're out there really killing it.
Yeah. So another thing in addition to the scholarship, which will close at the end of the month. So tell everybody that may apply that they need to do that here in the next 2 or 3 weeks. We're also getting the mentorship thing rolling. So if you kind of are in our circle of orbit, if you hang out with me and Charlotte and our friends on the Discord, if you haven't told me that you want to be a mentor, shoot me a DM and we'll get you connected with that. We are going to take mentee applications a little later than usual this year. We're doing a lot of little tweaks to kind of fix the ghosting problem that we've had. If you've been following along on Discord, you know about that. Thank you, Truman. He keeps jumping up on here.
He's not supposed to be on the couch.
Yeah, no, he's not. But that will be opening up around the end of March or beginning of April for a lot of different reasons. If you know of somebody that is going to be a first-timer this year, tell them about that, and we'll get you the information about that application here in the next couple months. So again, that will be around the end of March or beginning of April.
The scholarship application closes February the 28th, so the last day of February. So if you want to tell somebody about it, make sure that they apply by that date.
Yeah. All right. I think we got totem stuff covered. So again, thank you to everyone who came to the events. We'll have more for you very, very soon. Truman, it's not for you. Truman is being a bad dog. He keeps trying to jump up on there. That is, listen, y'all, Truman is, I love dogs. I love our pets, but I'm going to say this with all love in my heart. He is the most annoying little shit ever. This dog is Satan personified. All right. Anyways, let's get back to talking about some of these Roo things. So again, let's go through things again real quick. I don't think sales are as abysmal as many people would assume. I think they're doing okay. Bonnaroo would like for them to be a little bit better. Let's talk a little bit more about like perception. We were talking about like the lineup and what people think of Bonnaroo at the moment. You may know this better than anybody else since you are so involved with the Reddit as moderator. What's kind of the vibe that you're getting from people right now?
So our engagement on Reddit is just, I don't want to say it's dead, but it has slowed significantly. People are just not out there talking about Bonnaroo in the way that they were this time, last year. Now, of course, we do have to think about, well, we had just got the lineup, things were just starting to come out. It's a different timeline this year.
Yeah.
But right now, people are just not talking in the way that they once were. And we're not getting the amount of, first-timer questions. We're not getting the amount of, just general camping questions, things like that. I'm just not really seeing it out there as much as I did in the past.
Yeah. And to be fair, we are in a bit of a dead season. We've started to get a couple of things, like we talked about the late night announcements last time. I think there will be additions before too long. They will have some things that they need to fill out some time on that new UFO stage, kind of the stage that was in Where in the Woods. It's going to move to where Infinity was. I think there will be some pretty hefty additions that will play on that. We'll hear about that before too long, probably in the next couple of months. I do think that will generate discussion and ticket sales. I think the names that they will be getting for that will easily do both. I do think that there will be other things that will generate a lot of hype as well. You've got like Outeroo editions. You have, Plaza Entertainment that will be announced.
Right. That's what, I think a lot of people may not realize. There's still a lot of things to announce out there.
Yeah.
Like a lot.
Well, you just said the timeline is very different.
Right.
In the past, we would kind of know like, okay, this is coming at this time. But since the lineup was like a month and change early this year, now there's no precedent for anything. And maybe there's an argument to be made that kind of hurt engagement a little bit. I don't know. I don't think that's really for us to say. It's certainly for us to guess and speculate about, but it isn't for us to definitively say.
It's wild. One of our Reddit moderators actually keeps a spreadsheet or makes a spreadsheet, and it goes back like 4 or 5 years of when everything has released. Like, oh, this is when the Outeroo programming got released. This is when the After Hours programming was released, like not whatever. This is when the schedule gets released. What date in 2019? What date in 2022? What date in 23, et cetera, and so forth.
Mm-hmm. And now we just don't know.
And now, we don't know because the timeline is just so drastically different.
So there's just a lot at play right now that are making so many different things happen. I think it has made the questions that have arisen about these ticket deals, not schemes, be somewhat valid. Like we said at the beginning of the show, I think that people's critiques about like, hey, if I had waited, I would have saved a lot of money are very valid.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it is worth the discussion in the community. However, I think, our discussion tonight, notwithstanding, it wouldn't hurt for us to be a little bit more positive because like, again, for the third or fourth time, it's never not great. I have also said, kind of like our little catchphrase thing in correlation with what the What podcast says, is it still is Earth's greatest party. I really believe that. The only thing that compares to it for me is Burning Man. I think when you have that many like-minded people making things happen, going to the same shows, and just partaking in kind of like the vibe that you can't really define that's only at Bonnaroo, you can't have any more fun anywhere else on the earth.
So I absolutely agree with you, Daniel, 1,000%. And I do think that a lot of that type of thing, the community aspect of it, really does take place in group camping. And
oh yeah.
I just think that's where it's at, because it's so amazing to see, you know, different groups, different people from all different walks of life coming together and literally just making a little miniature city within Bonnaroo. That's a city with, you know, just doing all this super, super cool stuff.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, and we'll kind of end on this thought tonight. This is a bit of a thought exercise. If you were in charge of Bonnaroo, and not just like marketing or booking bands or whatever, but just in charge of the place, what do you think you would be doing right now to kind of change the conversation, to make it a bit more positive, to generate more sales, to bring back the kind of hype that we had in like the early 2010s?
I don't know that people, okay, well, video content.
Video content. Now tell me what you mean.
Short form video content. It's what the youth yearn for.
Yeah.
Children yearn for the TikToks.
Yeah. Okay. So you think a little bit more of that type
of thing
marketing
combined with, hey, you want to start a group? Here's how you start a group. I'm so-and-so, and I'm, you know, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So it's not just short-term video content that's like funny or cool or whatever. It's informational short-term video content.
Yeah. I want to kind of go along with you on that too. Like, I think lineups, unfortunately, in this stage of the game, when it comes to the festival circuits, are kind of interchangeable. Like, Bonnaroo has a reputation of having some like out of the ordinary things. And I still think we have a little bit of that this year. Not as much as we had in the past, but still some. But still, for the most part, if it's a Live Nation event, I hate to say it, but you can copy and paste a lot of these lineups at different events. I think the thing that you have to sell with Bonnaroo is the community stuff, is the fact that it is summer camp, all these different kind of things that give it the vibe that no other festival has. Maybe arguably something like Electric Forest, but it's still not at the scale of a jam-packed Bonnaroo. If you have a festival that's only half the attendance, to me, you only have half the experience, because like having so many, you know, different types of people with different types of energy and all the different brands of creativity, that brings a lot of something to the table. That's why you and I have come to love Burning Man the past couple of times, you know?
Right. I agree with you, Daniel. You know, it's more than just the lineup that's going to sell the festival.
Yeah.
Because how many people know that something like group camp even exists?
Yeah.
How many people know that you could go out to the group camp on your very first day and play wiffle ball with a bunch of strangers and have the time of your life?
Yeah.
I don't know, just random stuff like that.
But it's like, you know, we're talking about that. The What podcast is talking about that. Ruham's talking about that. People are talking about that on Reddit, Discord, InfoRoo, whatever. But it's something that you have to at least experience over those videos or something that is delivered to the first timers to really understand it. At best, you have to experience it. That's kind of what we're trying to do with Totem. We want people to come that never have, that wouldn't have had the opportunity otherwise. And I'm not trying to critique Bonnaroo too much by saying that they aren't, but the reality is they just don't have the time. Back in the Superfly days, that Bonnaroo was their crown jewel. For AC Entertainment and Superfly, that was the big event of the year. So, of course, they put a lot of time into communicating exactly what it was and really harnessing the weirdness of Bonnaroo.
The weirdness, yes.
But these days, again, this is not a critique, it's just the reality. Everybody in the Bonnaroo office is handling like 3, 4, 5 different events. And Bonnaroo hardly ever, if ever, has their sole focus like it would have for a lot of people like 15 years ago. And that's just where we are, unfortunately. So they don't necessarily have the time to market those intangibles. Instead, they're forced to market what is seen as a to use the current vernacular, a mid lineup. And that kind of is what is putting us in this tricky situation in which we have to have these deals/schemes to bring it full circle. And that's just, I hate to be perceivably pessimistic on this episode, but I think sometimes we just have to look at the reality of the situation and take an assessment on why we're at where we're at. It's all these factors. It's the fact that last year's mud left a bad taste in so many veterans' mouths. I know of a good handful of people, and I know you do too, that was just like, I've outgrown it, I'm out. And that was kind of the last straw for them last year with the weather stuff. And again, Bonnaroo can't control the weather, but as we went through, 9 months ago, whatever it was at this point, the response after the cancellation showed room for improvement. And I think they have taken those critiques to heart. And I think if anything ever were to happen again, they would be drastically improved over that situation. As you have all seen with their videos from Dale, Raise Hell, Praise Dale, they fixed a lot of things, but we got to get there and see it in person and not just with drone videos too. I know that's a lot to consider, and I hate to have these kind of conversations on our podcast where we prefer to be more positive, but sometimes you got to look at it realistically and call them as you see them.
What is this dog barking at?
The other dog over there. Again, this dog is a spawn of Satan.
No, I mean,
look at him. He knows.
I agree, Daniel. And to me, the Bonnaroo community is everything to me. I mean, that's literally why I go to Bonnaroo. The lineup is just some secondary thing.
Yeah. That is something that maybe is a conversation for another time, but I do concern myself a little bit with what would happen to the community if, God forbid, something happened to Bonnaroo. The diaspora of people is something that I hate to have to think about, because a number of people would make Electric Forest their main thing. A number of people would make Halloween their main thing. Some of them might even make Burning Man their main thing. I think there is some work that could be done to keep that community alive, because I have said many times, Bonnaroo is not the grounds, it's not the company, it's the people. So in that way, it will suck a little bit this year to not have everybody there, even though it doesn't hurt to not have a big crowd in front of you when you want to get close for the Strokes or something like that, But I know this is a heavy conversation for this week. Hopefully we'll get back to something a little bit more positive.
Too heavy.
Well, I mean, again, I hate to have to think about it, but we kind of have to, But like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, I have had a lot of good talks with people this past week. Good things are coming this year. I don't think things are in tough of a spot as many people are assuming that they are.
No, people always love to be negative on the internet.
This is true. This is why I would love for you guys to take part in my sticky threads that I'm putting up weekly.
It's easier to be negative than it is positive online.
I'm doing this thing as a part-time Reddit mod where we're going to have like a weekly topic where we're just going to be a little bit more positive. Last week, it was like, tell us your bands that you've already seen that are on the lineup. This week, it's like, tell us a crazy story about something that happened late night. There is room for all this serious conversation, but it's Bonnaroo. There's a lot of room for silly conversation as well. Absolutely, there's room for positive conversation.
The silly conversation, like the pool that we were supposed to get last year.
Yeah, what happened to the pool? I thought you were in charge of the pool.
I was not in charge of the pool. I just told people about it.
Well, that's what Reddit told me. They said that Charlotte said we were getting an Olympic-sized pool at Bonnaroo.
Well,
what happened to it?
You saw the lifeguard stands for it. See?
All right, seriously though, we will get back to more positive things. I really don't like having these kind of serious conversations on the podcast, but sometimes we got to. We'll do some more fun stuff before too long. We're still trying to figure out what the next month or two is going to look like since we're going to be traveling a lot. I'm looking for guest hosts. I've called out Shayna. I've called out JB and others. We'll do some fun stuff before too long. Nick's band Love Circle is going to be on the show before too long. I hear they're recording right now. I'm looking forward to hosting them at our group camp this year.
Cool.
I think we're going to do some fun stuff with them. Yeah, but I know it's been a weird conversation this week, but I want you to get out there and radiate positivity anyways. This is going to be a fun Bonnaroo no matter what. It is going to happen. I can't wait to see you guys there. There's some fun stuff happening that you'll hear about relatively soon. I promise. But until next week, get out there and radiate positivity. We'll see you real soon.
Bye.